in a larger school district, you may have, a variety of programs that can be offered to your kids. They may have better facilities that can be offered to kids. What we're looking to do in rural settings is we have to take advantage of what we got. We want our kids to learn to be resourceful. That's an important part of being in a rural community. We may not have this particular resource, but this is how we can utilize what we do have to give us the perspective of utilizing that resource. We want to prepare our kids to be adults. That is the biggest thing. And some of our kids are going to be ready to go to a 4-year university when they leave here. And some of our kids are going to be ready to go to a 2-year college when they leave here, or maybe even a 2-year trade school, maybe even a 1-year certification course. But we also are going to have kids who are going to go straight into the workforce. And so what we want to do is we want to build responsible and productive adults and citizens that go into our communities.
So welcome to the podcast, listeners. Today we're joined by Juan Ramirez, Superintendent of Crowley County School District number RE1J in Otway, Colorado. He leads a rural district serving 332 students across 2 schools, focusing on building sustainable systems, fostering community engagement, and ensuring that every student receives the tools and support they need to thrive. We'll hear about his leadership journey, the unique challenges of rural education, and his vision for creating sustainable practices that strengthen students, staff, and the broader community. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We actually have a professional development day today, which is good. And so we're always excited about that stuff. And we like to be able to have our staff learn.
That is amazing. Okay, so I really want to start this discussion by understanding a little about your journey. So can you share a little about your journey into education and leadership, and what was it in the first place that got you interested in education?
So my journey is very, I wouldn't say it's different. I think other people get to their spots differently, right? So I did not complete my degree until late into my 20s. And then I actually ended up working towards getting a job in education after working for a nonprofit, where I went into some of the urban schools and did some life skills practices. And then I eventually got a job teaching in Morgan, Texas. And that's where I began my career. And I started there just working as a teacher coach, and then worked my way into becoming an administrator there as a principal, and then eventually the superintendent prior to leaving and then coming here and becoming the superintendent of Crowley County School District. So what's interested me, and I think when I started my journey, it was mainly about how I could impact kids. And that was important for me because I wanted to really just take the opportunity to make some sort of an impact with students. Working in the urban schools that I was at, it kind of helped me see that I could relate to some of these kiddos, and I could help them understand that education has a value, and here's what it is, and here's what it's helped me do. And so that's what I wanted to do. And then eventually just kind of progressed. When I got into teaching at Morgan, I did not really think that I wanted to be an administrator. I thought a coach, a teacher, that was where I wanted to be at. But my mentor encouraged me to look into something more, and I did, and I'm very glad that I did, and he set me up to be in this position.
That is amazing. I think it's always good to have great mentors who can see things and that we probably can't see, and then they push us in the right direction. So that's amazing. You've also served in multiple rural districts across Texas and Colorado. What have you learned from those experiences that has been the most critical in shaping your leadership philosophy in today's day?
I would say what shaped my leadership philosophy is more about who the person was that guided me here. And through, I've had the opportunity to have several different types of jobs in my life, but John Bryant was the person who shaped my life the most when it came to being a professional. Mr. Bryant was a firm believer that, we were here to educate kids. That's our top priority. And we needed to ensure that our teachers understood that. And he helped me understand that whenever you're guiding teachers and other staff at a school district, it truly is about sharing a common vision and bringing them in the fold and believing that they have buy-in to that vision as well. It can't just be mine, because there's so many people who make an impact. And so I would say that what's helped me design my leadership skills is just the experience of getting to work with some great people and then having a good mentor guide me along the way to help me see that this is a shared vision and a shared interest that we all have, and it's not just a single person's. And so I think that's been very helpful. And then bringing and engaging community members who have that same mindset, who want to be a part of the solution and helping kids. And so always including the community in those discussions as well. So it wasn't just a single thing, but it was everybody. So I don't know that I can define my leadership skills in a certain area where it's like, hi, it's very much this, but I am very, I guess you could say, either diplomatic or democratic in the mindset that people have a voice and you all have a seat at the table here. And this isn't just my decisions. I've got 7 board members who get to play a part in that. I've got 4 administrators that I work with closely that get a part in that. I've got a central office staff that play a part in that. We have 30 to 40 staff members who are in charge of instruction that play a part in that. And then, you've got your maintenance and custodial people, they have a part in that. And then you just encompass the entire community. So yeah, I'm very democratic in the mindset that we all have a say, and this isn't a single person's, vision or decisions. We have to do this together.
And I think that's a wonderful perspective to have. You also mentioned having a lot of board members and then just any decision being a collective one. So I think leadership often requires us to wear multiple hats in terms of there being a lot of decision makers. So how do you collaborate with staff, school boards, and community partners when you're making an important decision?
Well, the first thing that has to happen is you want to make sure that when you're presenting your vision or your ideas or whatever is being brought to you, you want to have some things laid out. Like you want to have some real defined parameters. Mm-hmm. And so part of that, in this job, like you were saying, you wear many hats. And so one of those things is you are a community coordinator. And so the community doesn't just encompass like families outside of the building. Your community is who you have within that building sometimes. So being able to coordinate that is an important thing. The other thing that you have to do, and one of the hats that you have to wear, is you have to be a participant. Like you're not just the leader in this, and it's not just yours, it's everybody. So I've got to participate in it. So what I do is I bring in the parameters, right? When we make decisions, and I say, okay, here's the decision we need to make, but these are the restrictions or the limitations that we might actually meet. So how do we build within these guidelines? And then what do you think you need, or what will you want from this to feel like you're being a part of this productive solution or possible project? And I think that's what we try to do. So I try to collaborate and bring in as many voices as I possibly can. Then I take those voices and those decisions, and then I formulate, okay, here's kind of where I think we need to go. And then I present it to our board, and then I just say, hey, this is what I think needs to happen. This is why. I'm a believer in it. I don't just make it mine, but I also don't just throw it on somebody else and say, hey, that's theirs. They want to do this. This is our decision. So now I want your buy-in and making it part of our decision too.
So I think I'm hearing a lot of collective leadership where like everyone is a part of that decision making, and I think that also personalizes that decision for them. So I think when it's not coming directly from an authority and like it's just everyone is involved, I think they become a little more receptive of those decisions. Is that how it works, or like am I off track here?
No, I think that's about right. And you're not going to make everybody happy. You're still going to have some people who feel like their voice wasn't heard and that they were left out because maybe what they shared was not included in what that decision was. But ultimately, what you're doing is you're choosing what's best for the greater good of people, and that's all it is. And so it's difficult, but you're doing the best that you can in that collaboration to say, hey, we've brought in as many voices as we can. We brought in as many thoughts and ideas as we possibly could, but ultimately this is where we're going to land, and this is what's going to fit us best. And then you move forward from there. So it's not easy, but it's something that gets accomplished by a lot of different people around the areas,
That is amazing. That's a wonderful perspective to have. So I want to shift the lens to some challenges that you may face. So rural districts face unique challenges from funding limitations to staffing. How have you approached building sustainable systems that work for your students, teachers, and community?
I think the first thing you have to do is, you know, when you're building your system of sustainability, it's what's aligned to our goals, what's aligned to what it is we're trying to accomplish. And then you then have to factor in, okay, now that we've got this, the framework of what's being laid out, how do we may ensure that that stays in place? What are we going to do to make sure that that's there? So I'll give you an example. For us, the system of sustainability was, how do we build an academic situation to where we are holding our administrators accountable for being instructional coaches? And then how do our administrators then hold the teachers to be accountable to being instructional people? And that includes all their practices. It's lesson planning delivery, lesson delivery. But then it's also evaluating those lessons and taking that data and then building in a reteach, or, tying in a reteach to another lesson and figuring out how you do that. And then it's the teacher's jobs to hold the kids accountable to making sure that they're learning that stuff properly. So our system of sustainability is that we are building a system of instructional coaches. They go in and they monitor and they help teachers become better teachers, instructionalists. And then the teachers are building better students. And so the way the system becomes sustainable is you build solid policies and practices in place from the top down. And this is how we do things. And those things stay in play, whether it's the principles we have now or if the new person comes in. This is the process for how we do it. And you come in and that's how the system will stay sustainable. For us, when you look at funding, yes, it starts to play a part in, okay, we know that down the road it's going to get tight here in the state of Colorado, but are we willing to sacrifice the things and the principles that we hold to be true to a solid education by getting rid of things that were a part of the system that we felt have established and built this? And so we have to look at that directly and then ask, like, how do we maintain that? And maybe it's people are taking on different jobs down the road, but we want to hold to that idea and that system. So
perfect. That makes a lot of sense. I think when each level holds each other accountable, I think that is where it becomes a little more sustainable. So yeah, we love that. Okay. Moving on to families and community. So family and community engagement is central to rural schools' success. What strategies have you found the most effective in fostering trust and collaboration with families and the local partners?
I think what we've done is we've built a very open discussion with family members, and we've had that with the community as well. We try to be as open and honest as we can be with everybody. Like, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, and this is why. We don't want to be secretive in our approach. Again, this is all a buy-in thing. When I'm gone, there's going to be the new person who kind of comes in, and the community needs to know that what's established is Crowley counties. It isn't Juan Ramirez. It doesn't belong to a principal. It doesn't belong to an assistant principal. It belongs to Crowley. This is the districts. And I am just fortunate enough to be the person who gets to lead us at this time. And it's the same way with board members. Board members are going to move in and out, but ultimately what belongs to Crowley County School District, that's what's important. So I think us being open and honest and inviting to people, and I think some people they misinterpret that. Like when you say, hey, I'm open and inviting, they think, well, that means the doors are open to the school. That's not what we mean, but we're open about having a real honest discussion. Unfortunately, the way the times work right now, you can't just have your doors open because of the things that we deal with on a daily, not just us, but across this nation, and the safety and security issues that come because of what we're looking at. For me, it's, we want to invite people to feel like you have a voice. So when you have a parent conference, or if you want to schedule a time to call or talk to the principals and express your concerns, that we're going to take that information and we're going to try to build a better um, system of whatever that might be, whether it's communication or instruction or, parent engagement, involvement. We got to do that. We try to take advantage of that through our parent conferences. And we want parents to know that, hey, ask the tough questions. We want to be able to answer those for you, and we want to educate them properly. So I think when you talk about fostering and creating engagements with families, it starts with just letting them know that, hey, we're going to be as open and honest as we possibly can, while also being inviting to your ideas and your concerns and seeing how we can meet those.
So I think parents, when they realize that their voices are actually being heard and they actually matter, in the sense that they're not just filling out a feedback from the feedback is actually taken into action, I think that does foster some amount of trust. So yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so coming on to the students initiative, how do you prepare your students in a small rural district for both college and workforce success, especially when resources are limited?
Yeah, I think when you look at rural settings, where you're at a disadvantage of, like in a larger school district, you may have, a variety of programs that can be offered to your kids. They may have better facilities that can be offered to kids. What we're looking to do in rural settings is we have to take advantage of what we got. We want our kids to learn to be resourceful. That's an important part of being in a rural community. We may not have this particular resource, but this is how we can utilize what we do have to give us the perspective of utilizing that resource. I think for us, we want to prepare our kids to be adults. That is the biggest thing. And some of our kids are going to be ready to go to a 4-year university when they leave here. And some of our kids are going to be ready to go to a 2-year college when they leave here, or maybe even a 2-year trade school, maybe even a 1-year certification course. But we also are going to have kids who are going to go straight into the workforce. And so what we want to do is we want to build responsible and productive adults and citizens that go into our communities. That is the biggest thing for us, because sending them to college doesn't make them responsible and productive. Sending them to a trade school doesn't do that. And putting them in a job right after school doesn't do that. That comes in time, but we have to instill the values, the skill sets, and the mindset that when they leave here, they want to be a productive part of whatever community they're in and be a solid citizen. We talk about framing them that way. And yes, ideally, do we want to be able to have every kid go on to post-secondary success and do college or do military or do trade school and get great jobs? We would all love those things. But the reality is sometimes you're not going to get all those kids, but you do want to give them the proper skill sets so that when they leave, they are productive adults. That is the biggest thing for us.
So you were talking about productive adults. I think one of the places where a lot of adults may lack or struggle is like proper coping skills. So you emphasize coping skills and life readiness for students. How do you integrate these into the day-to-day learning experiences?
It's problem solving. When kids get into classes, you want to make sure that one of the things we've talked about here is our staff has to be okay letting our kids live in the struggle of learning, because learning is not easy and we can't give them an answer to everything. What we can do is give them an opportunity to learn in those things. And when they struggle, be okay with that. And let's live in that with them. And let's find out why they're struggling. And let's meet them where they're at. And let's help build the skill sets necessary so there's less of a struggle. But those things are important for us. We want our kids to know that, you're going to struggle and that's okay, because we all do it. And we're going to live in that process with you. And then we're going to help you learn through that so that when you leave here, you're better for those things. And so that's part of the life skills. That's part of academic skills. That's part of trade skills that all these kids are going to learn, is learning how to live in the struggle of what it is that we're doing and knowing that you're supported through that and that you have the skill sets to do that. The buzzword that a lot of people want to shy away from sometimes is critical thinking skills, but those things are valuable. Kids have to think critically. And it's not about anything larger than the grand scheme of, I've got to be able to problem solve. And sometimes that takes thinking outside of the box of where I'm at. Whether that's I've got to figure out how I'm going to make enough money to make ends meet to meet tuition and be able to do that, or this is how I'm going to provide for my family and do these things necessary so that we can survive and I can go ahead and continue to provide to them. Those are critical ideas and critical thoughts that our kids have to learn to work through, and that's what we're trying to do. So I think for us, that is what we're trying to build and then also to support our kids emotionally whenever there is a struggle and to identify those things and say, hey, let us help you with those coping mechanisms and those skill sets. And that either comes through a coach, it comes through a teacher that they trust, it may come from an administrator, it could come from the school counselor. It comes from a variety of different people, but the idea is just to provide them a space to be able to feel safe enough to learn those things.
So I think giving them a space where they may struggle a little, but them understanding that how to deal with that struggle or like how they get out of it using problem solving or critical thinking, I think is making them more prepared for the adult world they're going to enter into soon. So yeah, that is amazing. Moving on to a very hot topic currently. What role do you think technology, including AI or digital tools, play in supporting teaching and learning in your context?
So I think this is new for a lot of people where it's, I think we're trying to figure out the balance, right? Like there's a place for AI, but there's also a place to kind of stay rooted in the things that have gotten us here. So I think having to marry the both of those has been a little difficult for schools, in particular rural schools, because we don't have the resources and the capabilities sometimes that some of the larger districts do. But what I do know is this: is that where AI comes into hand is how do you use that as a resource to help supplement your teaching and then help students in supporting their learning? Those are the two things that you're doing. We're not trying to supplant our teaching. We're not trying to get the teacher out of the classroom. We need to supplement that. So how are teachers using artificial intelligence to help increase their ability to teach instruction in class, like that content, get those academic skills? The next thing is how do we support kids with that? So what is artificial intelligence? What is AI doing for our kids to help them continue to learn? Not so that it does the work for them, because we're not trying to supplant them as students. It's supplement what it is that they're doing and support those things so that they feel like they have the tools available to them. For us in a small school setting, we may not have the ability to have an entire program of tutoring services available to us, like at our hands, at our disposal. But utilizing something that is AI generated, that we can say, hey, we're going to use this, and this is what's going to help provide you that instructional support or academic support. Those things are key and important. So I think that's where it's at. And yes, it is a hot topic. It's good and bad. And I think some people are fighting the AI trend, but we are at a stage right now where we're just now starting to kind of figure that out for ourselves as adults. So to say that we have an answer for kids, I don't know that there's a real way to say that honestly and think that we've got it figured out.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think using AI as a supplement and not a replacement, I think that is a wonderful perspective for us, especially in the times that we're in. A lot of uncertainty. We don't know what AI is going to do forward, but just having a positive mindset towards it. Amazing. Perfect. Okay. The last question from my end. Every leader has a big rock, that one major challenge or focus area that they're determined to move forward in. What is that big rock for you right now, and how do you plan on tackling it?
It's funny that you use the term big rock. So for the last 2 years, we've been a part of a program through the University of Virginia. And that is what has began us on this journey of building sustainable systems. And we have, I think for the most part, we've established that our big rock dealt with how do we drive instruction through data?
Okay.
And for me, I'm doing the same thing. It's how do I drive my instructional coaches through data? And how do I get them to use that data to continue to build on being better coaches for those teachers? And so our big rock it has been and probably will always continue to be is driving things that we do in this district through data. whether
Hmm.
that's instruction, whether that is policy driven, whether that is financially driven. It's going to be driven through the idea of data research. Those things we can lean into and say, hey, this is why we're going to do this. This is what we're being told is necessary, and kind of running with that. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. So our big rock is, how do we continue to take advantage of the data that's put in front of us, and how do we make the most of that when it comes to creating our narrative and creating our vision and creating our goals and creating everything that's going to be sustainable for this community.
And we hope, things sort themselves out a little, and then we figure out how to go ahead with this moving forward. So, okay, those were all the questions that I had from my end. So we have this little segment where we have the previous leader that we've had a podcast with share a question for the next one. So the question that has come up for you is that, how do you ensure engagement of parents to support the school of the lowest performing students, especially when they have barriers that prevent them from attending things like after school tutoring or Saturday school?
When you talk of, we don't have a Saturday school. We have a Monday school, and we utilize that more for a support system. And it's not really something where we're catching kids up, or it is really kind of a, hey, you missed some time, come in on a Saturday or on a Monday school and let us help catch you up. This is your afforded time. We don't do anything after school. Like, everything that we do after school those are the extracurriculars, because there's already a lot happening. And so in a small rural school, these kids are engaged in multiple things. We have girls that are cheerleading that have volleyball practice. And so, they have a whole lot on their plate. And you have football players who, again, they're playing, but then they also have other requirements. A lot of our kids are rural, so some of them have responsibilities after school to go and help contribute and be a part of the ranch or the farm that they're they live on. And so I think there's a lot that kind of happens there. What we've done is, like, we want our parents to understand we're not going to offer something that will not benefit our kids. We really won't. And there's a lot of after school programs that people run, and there's really not a benefit to them academically. You're leaving kids at the school per se longer, which then makes them feel like their day has basically been taken over by the district. And that's the last thing we want to have happen. When we build after school program, when that day comes and we're ready for that, it's going to be something that truly supports our instructional practices. That's the biggest thing. When kids are going there, it's because they're actually learning those academic skills that are necessary to help them be successful. But right now, we don't have anything like that. What we have is, we have a Monday school that is there to support kids when they are struggling and they need a little bit of extra time and help. But that's all done in a voluntary way. But it's also done, like, if a teacher feels like a kid needs that, they may reach out and say, hey, this kid needs to come in, get a little extra time, and we do those things. And so our community buys into that structure because they know it's there to help and support. And it's not mandatory and making them feel like, hey, our kids have to give up their days for this particular thing. There'll come a point in time where we have something and we'll do a summer school or we'll do an after school program, but it's going to be something that really does help and it impacts. And, my mentor, I go back to this gentleman. He believed that you don't just do things to do things, and you don't spend money to spend money. And everybody's got a fix for schools, right? There's a lot of places, and I get these phone calls all the time. And it's always about, hey, we've got this program, it's amazing, and it does all this and does that. But what's it going to do for us? Right? Like, if we don't have a need for that, if we don't have a space for that, then what are we doing? And so for us, we always have to look at it from that standpoint. So maybe I'm not answering your question, but I'm just being honest from the standpoint of, when it comes to the Saturday school, when it comes to, or the Monday school, when it comes to after school tutorials, our district sees it like, we have these kids here for 8.75 hours a day. And while they're here, we need to do the best that we can to instruct them, and then allow them the ability to go and participate and be a part of the community. That's how you engage the community. they come out to watch their kids play volleyball. They come out to watch their kids cheer. They come out to watch their kids play football. Or if you're at a school where they have soccer or softball, parents go out. That's engagement. And you're not engaging a community when you run a Monday school or an after school tutorial program, because that just means parents aren't with their kids at that time. And they're not, so we see those academics as core things that need to happen in the 8.75 hours that we have them. And then we see those other things as the community engagement, because we're out there supporting those kids too. We're watching those games and we're cheering them on and we're letting them know that it's bigger than just sitting in a classroom.
So I think understanding that children's time also have value, and then not forcing them to stay for longer hours, just ending them, exhausting them. So yeah, that is lovely. Okay, so I had a lot of fun listening to you. I think I learned a lot about how to truly engage a community, how to make sense, and like how to make decisions in a collective sort of a way. So yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time to do this. And yeah, we hope to stay in touch.